Welcome back to the second installment of the Elation Innovation Hour. I'm John Dunn, and as always, joined by Matthias Hinrichs. Hi, Matthias.
Hey, John. Good morning here from Minneapolis to Los Angeles. It's really interesting how we do these things like remotely, different places.
Absolutely. Well, for you guys who are unfamiliar or joining us for the first time, the Elation Innovation Hour is kind of an offshoot of this Elation Hour that we started at the start of our global pandemic that we're all enjoying so much about now. Or we just kind of touch base and talk about technology, innovations, applications. The Innovation Hour is all about new product technology. And Matthias Hinrichs, our global product manager, will take us through one specific product. In this case, it's going to be the new Fuze Wash FR, which is this fine fixture here. And we're very excited to bring this new Innovation Hour to you. And with that, Matthias, I'm going to turn it over to you and back you up, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you. Couple of notes before we start. If you haven't been in any of our Zoom meetings, you have a Q&A section. If you see something I talk about as I go through the fixture, please utilize that to... it says too loud. Let me just adjust myself a little bit. Okay. Utilize the Q&A to put some questions in. I'll try to reference them throughout the panel. The Q&A allows us to just collect these questions, and then we'll answer them as we go through. So let's have a look at the Fuze Wash FR, which is the newest member of the Fuze family of these 5-color LED fixtures that we have released over the years. And for that, I'm going to share my screen here. All right. So the Fuze Wash FR is part of the Fuze 5-color LED family, which is now completed. We have the Fuze Spot and the Fuze Profile as well. The FR stands for Fresnel, which gives us a nice, smooth, even wash field. And you see here the Spot and Profile fixtures. So smooth wash field, as you can see here, the fixture will fade through its zoom range. The Fuze Wash FR contains a full spectrum color mixing array with up to 480 watts of LED power, which helps us to deliver a total lumen output out of the lens of up to 14,000 lumens, and also has a very high CRI of 92 and a base color of 6,500K. The fixture contains a perfectly blended RGBMA LED engine, which is red, green, blue, mint, and amber, for a full spectrum of whites and colors. And as you can see here, it actually has an identical color mix and spectrum with the Fuze Spot and Profile. So this is something that's really important, that this family gives you exactly the same colors, even though in the case of the Fuze Wash FR, the engine is a bit brighter and more powerful with 480 watts for the Fuze Spot and Profile are 300 watt engines. But it's exactly the same color points. It has the same results when you use color mixing, when you use the CMY mode, when you bring up virtual colors, the virtual CTO wheel. So they're all in the same family, and we carefully matched to make sure that all the colors that it produces are the same. So let's have a look at the colors here. We have red, primary green, blue. Next, you have a mint, which helps us with the overall color spectrum. And we have an amber, which helps us with the warm tones and the warm colors that are crucial to this to fixture in this like wash category, because a lot of it will be applications of lighting up sets, lighting up people, lighting up objects. So the full color spectrum is very important here for the Fuze Wash FR. With the full mixing array, the FR also allows us to have a virtual color correction, So there isn't like a CTO LED in here. It actually uses the entire LED array to create different CTO color points. And we can actually see this here. We can go from 2,400 to 8,500 Kelvin using this virtual color correction. And this is mapped on the fixture's DMX control like a mechanical CTO that you may be familiar with from like a discharge fixture, for example, on white LED. So it is a dedicated channel that then blends all these colors perfectly together, and it's calibrated so you get the exact color that you specify. And it's literally on the DMX channel. You say, I need 6,000 Kelvin, and that's what you're going to get. In addition to the color correction, you also have a green and magenta shift, and that is needed for the TV and film market. Sometimes you have to compensate for different cameras, and the green magenta shift is a common technique to adjust the fixture slightly. And that is also a dedicated DMX channel. As it's the same family, the Fuze Washer VAR also contains the same virtual gel swatch book that you found in the Fuze Spot and Fuze Profile. And we see some examples of the different colors here. This gives you instant access to the most commonly used colors. It is also a dedicated DMX control channel. It really acts like a real mechanical color wheel. So there's really no difference to you. You say, I want this blue, this red. You can call up some random chases. You can call up a scroll where it simply like emulates a scroll through a color wheel. Makes it easier to program. It's fast to recall commonly used colors without having to worry about mixing these 5 different LEDs together. So it just makes it easier to use and gets you like instant access to these like perfectly aligned colors that we provide. And as it's in the family across all 3 fixtures, it's very easy to just have them all use the same color. Yeah, and because the virtual gel swatch book. Color control using 5 colors can be potentially challenging. You know, you may be used to the RGB, you may be used to CMY, maybe RGBW, but 5 colors, there is like so many variants. This is 5 16-bit parameters, so 10 channels to adjust the color of this, which makes it incredibly precise. But it also means it may be challenging to, you know, quickly dial in the right color that you like. And for this, we actually offer an alternate. We call this CMY emulation. In this mode, the fixture's control is reduced to 3 color channels. The fixture is white when you turn it on, and it's programmed to act like an additive, like a subtractive color wheel. So it functions the same as you've maybe used to from a white LED or an existing discharge fixture. You bring in your CMY flags, full cyan will get you full cyan out of the fixture, even though it may use all 5 colors in its engine to achieve this. If you mix cyan and magenta together, get like a nice Congo deep blue, that will exactly feel natural to you. That also means it's easy to program the Fuze Washer VAR and the other Fuze Spot and Fuze Profile together with existing fixtures which may have a CMY mechanical system. It's just more natural to operate the fixture, and it's then easy to have this as part of a larger system that may not have this multicolor array. And it's just, the 5 colors can be intimidating, so we offer this CMY control. It does a very, very good job to blend all these the 5 colors that we offer together. I would really say that in the CMY mode, the Fuze Washer VAR is pretty much indistinguishable from a traditional white Fresnel fixture. You do not see any color fringing. The blend is perfect. There's no unwanted shadows when you hit an object or when it projects onto a screen. So the light really feels and acts like a traditional Fresnel moving head. There's really no compromise using this. And quite the opposite. It gives you a much wider spectrum, a much wider color range. The blend is always perfect throughout the field. You have no gradual colors that come in. All the colors are always perfectly mixed in the lens and always perfectly mixed in the projected field. For beam control, the Fuze Wash FR provides us multiple options. First of all, we have a zoom lens, and that zoom lens goes from an 8.2-degree beam to a 62-degree wide field. And you can see this here as these two fixtures open. It's a very even field. The fall off is really pretty much perfect. But with the 8.2 degrees, you actually get also quite a nice defined beam out of it. So the fixture is really quite flexible this way. So narrow beam helps you to highlight specific areas on the stage. Wide wash gives you like very, very even color and lighting over a wide area. Something not always seen in watch fixtures is that the Fuze Wash FR also contains a motorized iris. The iris is used for additional beam control, so you can get much narrower. But we also can see here in the example that it allows animation of the beam. Just by opening and closing the iris, you can dynamically alternate the beam size. It is an interesting look. You have 20 of those fixtures. You get these nice iris chases while you're in a narrow zoom. So it's a nice aerial effects and dynamic effect that you get out of including a motorized iris. Next, we have frost filters. And the Fuze Wash FR actually contains two frost filters. One is a medium frost, and one is like a heavy frost. And we utilize these to soften the beam out even further, especially if you do a narrow zoom. You may want to use a frost to just soften out the edges further without making the beam, like the actual illuminated area, much wider. You just want to get a softer fall off. And it works very, very well with the framing module. The framing module without the frost is quite defined. With the frost filters, you can get the edges very, very soft. And you have two options of frost, and they're both variable. There's actually a dedicated control channel per frost filter. So talking about the framing, the Fuze Wash FR contains a full framing module. And that's actually the same module that you find in the Fuze profile. You have 4 blades that are fully adjustable at any angle. You have a complete index of plus minus 60 degrees of the entire frost framing assembly, like a barrel rotation on a traditional Leco. They're full color, full blackout blades, so they can travel all the way across the beam, doing some like interesting reveals. So we're going to look through some examples here. So you see a square that we framed on the floor. This will transition into a bar kind of frame. And at the same time, we utilize the index. Perfect. Yeah, the fixture's framing options are really quite outstanding. They provide straight cut, angle cuts, smooth edges, but you still have very precise light control. And you can see here how the indexing of the framed output looks in the lens. The framing is also very snappy. So we see some examples here as it jumps through different framing positions. You can program them yourself. This is a 16-bit parameter per blade and per angle, plus the indexing of the entire framing assembly itself. There's also a couple of framing macros pre-built. These allow you to recall commonly used shapes or quickly make these kind of like chase effects that you see here on the screen. This allows you to, it gives you another dynamic mid-air effect, for example, as you quickly jump through these frames. You can go between like different lines. So there's really interesting ways to do this. But the 16-bit really allows you very, very smooth transitions, especially if you do very long crossfades on the blades. 8-bit is just not enough, and you end up with some stuttering on that. With 16-bit, it's like perfectly smooth. And the precision of 16-bit allows you to have a perfect recall of any framed shape that you may have designed, and that may be crucial to your performance or play or wherever you utilize this fixture. Let's talk about dimming. Of course, dimming on LED fixtures is something we pay a lot of attention to. We have to make sure that the dimming is really flawless. On a fixture with 5 colors, it is actually even more crucial because you have to ensure that the colors do not shift as it dims down. Every color electronically has a little bit of a different way it approaches its dimming. So we have to make sure that the color that you receive out of the fixture is perfectly even as you reduce it down. And the Fuze Wash FR, as well as the Spot and Profile, do a very, very good job at this. We see an example where it dims down from 100 to 10% in about 10 seconds. The dimming is further refined with 4 dimming curves, and they allow you to change the way the DMX control tells it how much output is there. And it adds some control curves. We have linear, square, inverse square, and S-curve. And these are found in a lot of our products. We have them in many of the Artiste and many of the Fuze products now. S-curve, for example, if you use manual faders, S-curve ensures a very, very smooth pickup. When you start moving a fader up, it avoids any sort of blip in the fixture as we move a fader down from the top extreme. And it just sort of makes the pickup and the landing of the intensity transition a bit smoother, as you can see here by this slide S shape. These curves can be recalled from the display itself. So you see an example of the fixture display. But that can be tedious. You would have to go to every fixture to change it. It's much, much easier to do this over the DMX control channel. This means you can actually adjust the behavior of the fixture remotely from your DMX console. I think we have an example here where we do this when we're working on the NX4 here. You can recall these different modes at any time, ensuring that every fixture in the system acts the same. A fixture utilized in television, film, requires flicker-free operation, especially with today's very sensitive camera systems. And the refresh rate of the LED engine can be adjusted, again, on the display, as you can see here, or remotely from the console, from 900 to 20,000 hertz. You actually have a wide range of adjustments here. We actually recommend to start at the lowest refresh rate because that actually improves the dimming performance. The higher you go on the LED refresh rate, you want to start seeing some impact on the smoothness of the dimming. So I would always start from the bottom, look at the camera at the same time, slowly increase the refresh rate until you see no flicker, no scrolling in the camera, and this will then be set remotely. Again, here we see it from the NX4. It's just all of these different refresh rates are mapped out in the DMX channel and can be easily accessed from any lighting console. Another important consideration, of course, is quiet and cool operation. That is a big advantage of LED fixtures. When they're dimmed down, there's no bulb burning in there. There is no heat that is generated. Overall, you get much more performance out of a lot less wattage you put into these fixtures. I mean, you have to consider the spot is 300 watts. That's an incredible amount of output you get out of a 300 watt fixture. Here we're going up to 480 watt for a wash light. Because with a large zoom, we need that horsepower to really make sure you have the light output you require from a fixture of this type. But of course, you do not want to have a fixture that is loud and you don't want to notice it when you hang it up in your theater space or in your TV studio. So for this, we offer a couple of different fan controls. That is something we introduced on many of our fixtures in the Artiste and Fuze range. Yeah, and we have actually some examples here. I'll talk about this. So we have mute, which is is like the quietest mode we offer. We call it mute mode. Here, almost every fan in the fixture is turned off. Actually, in the example of the Fuze Wash FR, only one single fan is running. It's very deep inside the fixture. So you will not really hear the fixture at all. Next up is the studio mode. Studio mode is still very silent, but you gain a bit more performance out of the fixture. So mute mode is really meant for these like ultra quiet situations that you may find during a play. It's a single person talking, no amplification. You can actually remotely set the Fuze Wash to this mute mode. Studio in general would be for quiet environments in general. Maybe it's used in a television station, a talk show kind of setup. Then we have a low fan mode, which again, you basically have multiple options to slowly increase the noise level of the fixture. And I would like to point out, it is not a noisy fixture at all. It actually ranges from 39 dBA to 46 dBA at 1 meters. But you have basically different choices. And if you have a lot of fixtures in there, you can adjust this remotely and have a look which one works for you. High is really only needed if it's actually a very hot environment where the fixtures are used. High can also be used to sort of clean up the fans. If you run the fixture always in studio, you may end up, because the fan speeds are so low or the fans don't run at all, you may end up with some dust and dirt accumulation. And you can actually set the fixture to high to sort of spin out the dirt of the fixture, make sure that nothing accumulates and clogs up the cooling fins in the product. That's actually something we really recommend if you run the fixtures in a low fan mode a lot, especially in a studio or theater environment. There's a lot of dust in the air, and you want to make sure the fixture stays nice and clean. Auto is actually the recommended mode that we use because it's a sort of the perfect balance of noise and performance. So the fixture on auto will actually try to be as quiet as possible while always giving you 100% output without any reduction. Where the other modes, once the fixture gets too hot, it may step down its performance a little bit. It depends a little bit on the environment you use the fixture in. But with auto, you're always going to have the quietest you can be while getting the most amount of light output. And that is really the recommended mode. Would always start with that and then change to a different mode if required. All of these, as I mentioned, are remote adjustable. You can do this from the display and again from the console. Very easy to do, and these settings will stay with the fixture. So once you set it up once, you reboot your system, settings like the DMX curve and the refresh rate and the fan control will stay with the unit. Yeah, so you see the Fuze Wash FR. It's really a great light, and it's a great way to close out this like range of multicolor LED engines that we started with a Fuze spot and Fuze profile. Now we have a matching wash light, so you can you have all the elements you need to design a stage, a performance, or a studio space with this.
Yes, let me interject.
John?
So since we haven't done one of these in innovation hours on the Fuze spot and profile, and now we have the Fuze wash far, why don't you get in a little bit about that multicolor engine, full spectrum engine? And, I think there's going to be I'm sure there's some questions related to why mint over lime, or can you talk about that a little bit? And then we'll go to address Pierre Roy's question regarding the gel chips and how those match across the product offering, and can we fade or snap to those sorts of things.
Sure. Yeah, I'll get to those Q&A. So just want to encourage everybody, use the Q&A box in your Zoom to ask us any questions. We actually have some fixtures there. So we have a Fuze profile, a Fuze wash next to John. We actually have some in the air as well. So we can bring up something, actually showcase something that you may be interested in. So just let us know, and we'll be happy to do this like a bit of a virtual demo and virtual sort of town hall. All right, so your first question there is the color engine that we chose. And that's something we've been doing multiple products now with these like 5, sometimes 6 color engines. So you have the traditional RGB, which gives you just not enough spectrum. So if you take RGB to full, you end up with when LED fixtures came out with these engines, often it was discrete LEDs. You put them all on, you have like purplish white. So that was actually really, really difficult to get a clean white out of these products. Then the next evolution was adding a white LED to this. As the LED technology got better, there was very, very good chips, RGBW, which we, for instance, use on the Razer 760. This works great for many products. However, it still is not really a full spectrum. What we've seen, what then evolved into that is that more and more colors became available from different for the LEDs. So now you have cyan, mint, lime, warm white, cold white, UV. And what we decided to do is build a custom engine that is 305 watts, and we did it for the Fuze spot. And that engine contains red, green, blue to get us the primaries. Then it contains mint. And mint is an interesting color on its own. You would think, well, why would you want to have a green, like more green in a fixture? Well, actually, the way the spectrum of this mint LED is, it really helps elevate the entire spectrum of the fixture and evening it out. So you don't have all these like sharp spikes of red, green, and blue if you would look at a color meter. And then amber helps us with the warm tones. And overall, by balancing out these 5 colors, we end up with a base color of 6,500 Kelvin, which makes the fixture look just like a discharge fixture. I mean, if you turn the light on in white, you cannot tell the difference. You look at the light, you would have no idea that this is a blended multicolor LED system. But then we have all these different colors with enough power per color to really do all these different virtual CTOs. It helps us get very strong primaries on red, green, blue, magenta, yellows, and so on. So you have really a huge amount of color range. And then with the CMY mode, it actually really works quite nice.
You touch on that virtual swatch book, gel swatch book?
Sure. Well, yeah, we have about 60 colors in the product right now. You find the same virtual colors also in the KL panel, which we recently introduced, and the Fuze spot and Fuze profile contain it as well. So it is actually a DMX channel that works like a color wheel. It is really built to emulate a mechanical color wheel. You just jump to the color you want to go to. There was a question, I think you asked about fading.
You fade
Yeah,
like
at the moment, it's basically a macro. You cannot fade from one to another. You can call up the color, but there's no cross fading from one color to the next. If you require that, then you would have to mix your own using either the 5-color mode or the CMY emulation. The swatch book was really meant as like, hey, I really need to just go quickly to this color, dial in an intensity. You can crossfade the virtual CTO because that's a continuous range from 2,400 to 8,500 Kelvin. So you can crossfade anywhere in between without problems there. But yeah, on the swatch book, that is not possible. But the swatch book, like the virtual color channel, actually contains like there's a random option, there's a scroll option that acts like it is like a spinning color wheel. So it's a very quick way to get some interesting chases, for example, out of the fixture.
Matthias, sticking on the engine portion of this, since we're kind of there doing the colors, we had a question regarding why the brighter LED in the Fuze wash versus the other two products.
Sure. Has mostly to do with the application. Wash lights, you tend to use those for large area lighting, so you need quite a bit of horsepower to get to the 13,000, 14,000 lumens that we achieve with this. The fixture zooms a lot wider, so as you zoom out, if you do this with an engine that doesn't have enough light output, then the zoom becomes useless. Yeah, you can say you zoom to 60 degrees, but there's just so little usable light output left that is actually not helpful. So we actually decided, once we designed the optical system, that we really want more, we needed more light output to make that wide zoom range that we could achieve in this very short body. So you have to realize, it's a small fixture that zooms from 8 to 64 degrees. So within that zoom range, we had to make sure that you have enough light output on the wide range. It makes the lights nice and punchy on the narrow range. So that's why we decided to upgrade the LED engine a bit, specifically for the wash fixture.
Great.
Yeah.
Pierre has some follow-up questions. Don't worry, Paul Collins, we'll be getting to your question regarding the Artiste offering versus the Fuze offering shortly. Sort of want to keep in the same vein as we're flowing along here. So Matthias, can you give us a little bit of insight into the swatch book and the ability to change the RGB MA values via the color picker if you're in the macro, or does the macro negate the ability to kind of play from there? And then,
so that depends on the console. The RGBMA, most consoles wouldn't be able to map all that, so they would only, like a color picker on the desk would only work on the RGB usually. You would have to use all 5 colors. Maybe start with RGB and then add the other 2 colors in, or start with everything in white and start dialing out until you achieve the color you like. I would probably, I think a preference is, unless you have very, very specific demands to some colors that you want to emulate, you could actually use the CMY mode, because there the color pickers work really great on any console. It matches the way you used to work with other CMY-based fixtures on the market. And what the fixture actually does, it blends all 5 colors into that CMY color space for you. So actually, you pick a color in CMY, the fixture takes that and translates that into our larger color space with 5 colors. And it does a pretty good job at blending that together. So it feels like, it really feels quite natural to do it that way.
So Pierre, I think the short answer is the macro portion, the virtual gel swatch book, kind of overrides the rest of the color engine. So no, you wouldn't be able to go to one of the preset macros and then dial from there. You're better.
No, that's correct. Yeah,
it says, and then dialing in additional colors as needed.
Yeah, once you pick a color, then that fixture is stuck in that color. Excuse me.
But we'll certainly make notes and see what capabilities we might have of augmenting that in a future update. I don't know the feasibility. I'm sure Matthias can look into that a little bit more, and we'll get back to you guys on that. So Matthias, let's talk about applications. So obviously when you design a fixture, as we've discussed when we started this Elation Hour, with you being our guest and talking about the product offering,
Yeah.
you design it with applications in mind. It's not just putting out product. So when you put the Fuze Wash FR together, what really were you thinking people would be using it for?
Sure. So traditionally, in most theater designs, you find lighting positions like an overhead wash, overhead profiles. You find front of house position, side lighting, and a wash fixture like that is really usable in all of those positions. When you need more light output, you need a soft edge rather than a hard one. For instance, for side lighting on dance, I think it's a very interesting fixture to use with the framing, because the framing is quite precise, but then you still have a very soft field to blend things together. For a front of house position, like say a corporate event, is a very easy way to hang 6, 8, 10, 12 fixtures, however wide your stage is, and build like a perfect blend for front of house lighting. Where with a profile fixture, you may find once you frame it in, you just don't have enough light output left. You may have to overlay 2 profiles together sometimes to get the light levels you require on a stage. With a wash fixture, that is usually not needed. And it is much more forgiving to get like a perfectly even blend across the stage. So if a presenter walks across left and right on the stage, you don't want to see these like dips and valleys. The field of a Fresnel lens really helps you, and that's also why I personally really like Fresnel lenses for this. But then often these wash fixtures lacked any sort of beam control, so we added the same framing that you also find in the profile. So this allows you to have the soft field, but do the cutoffs exactly where you need them. That could be a video wall in the back, that could be the edge of the stage, there could be a set piece that you want to frame in. And there's a certain quality of light to wash fixtures that you just cannot achieve with a profile. Even if you put a frost in there, you can get very close, but there's like a certain way that a Fresnel lens distributes the light throughout the field, the way it looks on performers, the way it looks on the stage, that I think is really unmatched. And that's why a Fresnel lens works really well, because the fall off of the light levels is just very elegant the way it does it. It has a very nice peak in the fall off. Helps you blend in the fixture into a set quite nicely. What's nice is on the Fuze Wash FR that the framing on it, unlike other products on the market, is actually a full framing module, including indexing of the blades, indexing of the whole module. So it isn't a barn door system, which only allows you straight cuts top and bottom, and sometimes an iris is used to reduce the sides, because that emulates the way a barn door works on like the 2K Fresnel has like 2 large barn doors and then the 2 mini ones on the side. In this case, we actually give you full control. So you have angle per shutter cut, you do full blackouts, the whole assembly can be rotated. So it's much more advanced than a traditional barn door system on a wash fixture. So it's a bit of a hybrid there between a Lico style shutter assembly and barn doors that you will find traditionally on a Fresnel fixture. And this just gives you very good beam control. It's very precise where your light goes, but then your light quality is very soft while still having a lot of like it's called horsepower, because it's just the engine is bright enough.
You talk about an iris being a part of a barn door system.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need it in this fixture based around the full framing that the Fuze Wash.
We didn't, but it's a fun tool to have.
Well. So why do you?
So we kept it. Yeah. I figured that in an iris like this, there's just a certain way when you use an iris, the way it looks in the lens, it gets a very interesting dynamic look, just as a way to animate the fixture and write these sort of like chases with it. It does help you a little bit to reduce the beam aperture even further. I mean, even when you go to the narrowest beam, adding iris will just help you cut that down a little bit. And you cannot achieve the look of an iris with a framing system. You could have just made a small box, but no matter what you do, it's going to be a small box. It will never be a circle. And an iris just helps you to get a circle-looking output out of the fixture, which is something that the box will always look a bit artificial, potentially. That works great if you frame out a set piece, an iris on a stage with a bit of frost will, look natural. It's like a nice way to highlight an area, a performer, anything like that. So that's why we still have the iris.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Clark, hopefully that answered your question regarding splash effect. I'm not sure if you're referring to beam control and the offerings that are in the Fuze Wash FR that might be able to alleviate that, or perhaps you're talking about like a glare or something off the inside of the fixture.
Splash. It's probably, I think you may talk more about like light that comes out on the side of the beam that shouldn't be there. Somewhat, it's the nature of Fresnel lenses that you get a little bit of these. We actually include a snoot that you have right next to you there. So that is a snoot that attaches to the front of the fixture. That's included with the fixture, and that helps you with glare, and that is something that he may call it splashing, but it's like a glare that you get sometimes out of these. It actually happens right on the tips of the Fresnel rings that are on the lens. And the snoot helps cut that down. Snoot also obviously helps to hide the lens. Sometimes in theater, you don't want to look at the lenses, so we include a snoot to make sure that you don't expose the lens to the audience when you use this in an overhead position.
Great. So
there's also a gel holder, by the way, available for like TV applications. Sometimes some people prefer to put a very specific frost in there or some sort of very precise color correction, and then they could add that as well.
One more follow-up question regarding the virtual swatch and Onyx in particular. If you go to the macro, does Onyx tell you the DMX values for the RGBMA on the console so that you could recreate it yourself and build your own?
It does not. Actually, what it does, it'll just ignore the RGBMA values that are mixed, because this is dedicated. So the macros are not something the console does. It's something that's part of the DMX profile of the fixture. So you have a dedicated DMX channel, and you say, I want to go to medium blue, and the fixture will just go to medium blue, and it will ignore the values set in the RGBMA mix or in the CMY mix. So the console will not give you feedback that way.
Okay. Now let's address Paul Collins' question, and then we can kind of talk more about the Fuze spot profile and FR as a family, as well as the SFX and CW. But can you kind of tell us a little bit about the differences between the Fuze Wash FR and the Artiste Van Gogh, and where the benefits of both?
So there's a couple of differences here. First of all, it's a different LED engine technology. So the Van Gogh is a white LED engine. This is a multicolor system. The Van Gogh uses CMY, so it's a traditional CMY fixture. It aligns with Picasso, for example, Da Vinci. Like, it has the same color range there and the same kind of color control. So if you build a system maybe with other Artiste products, that would actually probably blend together a bit better and give you the same kind of look. Van Gogh has interchangeable lenses, which we do not offer for the Fuze Wash FR. So that is a Fresnel fixture only, where for the Van Gogh, we offer a PC lens, and the PC lens gives you actually it's utilized for like a longer throw distance. So that's another application, I think, where the Van Gogh is probably better suited on like longer distances. Using the PC lens, the Van Gogh will be the appropriate product, where the Fuze spot profile and wash are bit-sized kind of fixtures, the way they're positioned.
So it's a bit intensity. It's obviously
it's a high intensity. Sorry, and it has actually a bit higher CRI even, because it's actually a high CRI white LED engine. So
you have to start. So, and that kind of leads us into the next piece, Paul. Thanks for the question, and Matthias.
Yeah, it's a great question.
it basically leads it into families, right? So as you mentioned, when we touched on artistes, Van Gogh has a color system that will match whether it's Picasso or Monet in its CMY flags, or others within the line, Da Vinci, for instance. And Fuze is really intended to go alongside its family of products. So why don't you touch on the family of products in the Fuze series, not just the Wash FR, but Spot and Profile, and why we offer those two options, and then the white light engine versions in the CW and SFX.
Yeah, so we have a couple of variants within the Fuze range now. So we have these products that utilize this 5-color RGBMA engine, which is a Spot Profile, and now the Wash FR. So that those three are like one group of products, shared color system, shared virtual channels, shared virtual CTO, same body, same base design. So if you hang them next to each other, we can see them right next to each other there. They're almost indistinguishable when you hang them up in your truss. The Spot and Profile are pretty much the same product. The Spot, you gain, you lose the framing because you may not need framing in a lot of applications. The fixture is a little bit less expensive, helping you with your budgets. But you gain, if I recall right, a gobo wheel on that one. Profile is a traditional profile fixture. You know, there you have gobos, framing, iris, frost, prism. Really you can utilize it in many applications. And then the wash is like the companion wash light, gets you your base wash on the stage, helps you with front light, just to put color into your space. The wash is ideal for that because with the higher LED engine, you know, you may have a certain ratio of wash fixtures versus profile fixtures, and you know, maybe you have 12 washers and 16 profiles, and that would be a good way to combine these fixtures. It's usually you don't go for like a one-to-one kind of setup when you design your system, and then the higher output of the wash really helps here. Then we have another class in the Fuze range, which is white LED engines. There's a Fuze Profile CW, which was actually designed as a remote positionable cold white Lico. So it doesn't have color mixing, it has limits in its gobo choices. That'd be something traditional, you know, exhibition companies may utilize something like this. Some TV applications are maybe appropriate for it. The fixture has very good output. That's one thing that we gain with this like dedicated cold white engine. But then, of course, you have no color range. It's just it can only do that one color point. But because we reduced the fixture in its features, it's a very great value. And if that's all you need to do to illuminate signage on a trade show booth, then this is like the perfect fixture.
It does have two color wheels, correct?
What's that?
Some saturated color?
Yes, it has color wheels, yeah, but there's no color mix. Perfect, that's a good point. So you have a color wheel with different color corrections, and then one that has a couple of saturated colors on it, if I remember correctly. And then we have the SFX. So the SFX is a smaller product that we added into the Fuze. We kind of just sort of shrunk it down. It's also a white LED engine product, CMY mixing, and it's what we call a spot effects fixture. So it sort of combines a lot of things from a spot. It gets you a very tight beam. It has dual prisms that can overlay, getting you a lot of effects things. It has a frost that is built in to emulate a wash fixture. So this cute little SFX is really like an LED hybrid of sorts. So you have the three larger products, Fuze, Spot, Wash, FR, and the Fuze Profile. That's like one family, multicolor mixing, very refined optics. Then you have the CW as an option to, you know, at a lower budget, still get a very great, it's actually the same optics as the Fuze Profile, just limited in colors and features. And the SFX is sort of like a multi-purpose small performer, also good outputs, but white engine, so it's a bit different there. Yeah, that's sort of how these are positioned.
Fantastic. Do we have any more additional questions from anybody? Doesn't look like we do. So Matthias, thank you.
Yeah, actually, there's one that I see here, and that's DMX control and channels. I have to look at my cheat sheet here. So this fixture, similar to the Spot, offers 4 modes. You have the RGB-MA, the 5-color mode. There's like 2 versions of that. One's 29, one's 47 channels. And then actually the CMY mode, it's down to 27 and 43. And I would probably recommend for most people to actually utilize the CMY mode. It'll be probably a better experience to start with the fixture. If you use the RGB-MA mode, you'll definitely have to spend some time mixing a lot of your custom colors, building a lot of presets on your console. CMY mode is probably maybe a better way to start because it works with the color pickers, and it may work better with existing products that you have already in your system.
Great. Well, for anybody who has any more questions, please feel free to reach out to our sales team to get a demo. I know that they're probably chomping at the bit to have something to really do and bring some life into their lives. So Matthias, thank you very much for the insight today. And we look forward to more of these as we move forward, as this unfortunate pandemic has dragged on.
Yeah, you're welcome. This all went by quick, as they usually do. Yeah, it's a simple fixture, but it's actually a great little performer. It really does a lot for a wash light, and you have a couple of interesting beam options. Has great color, great output, it's quiet. So I think it's a really great package with these 3. You can design really a lot of spaces. And the Fuze Profile is an incredibly successful product for us already. So I think the wash as a companion will be a really great addition.
Great. Well, thank you all for taking the time to join Matthias and I today. I know it's a critical time for our industry. There has been a number of our colleagues who've really stepped up, really leading the charges. Michael Strickland from Bandit, helping lobby Congress to get the Restart Act up to a vote and hopefully give us some relief as not just companies that produce these events and make these events happen, but the millions of freelance employees who really execute daily on making live events, whether that's theater or concerts or corporate, happen. So we really implore all of you to support Red Alert Restart, and we make events on September 1st and work together to light up as many buildings, civic, large-scale buildings as we can get in red to bring awareness and help implore Congress to pass this act and get us the much-needed support all of us need to get through the pandemic. So please take a look at social media. More questions on Fuze Wash FR, go to elationlighting.com. And we look forward to seeing you guys again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.